Yeah. Okay, let's start. So guys, this is the last meetup for 2021, and like I think this is the 24th meetup, like 24th Surat meetup for year 2021 basically, right? And I think this is the last meetup for overall in the MuleSoft community basically for 221 2021 basically. And definitely like we will also have a lot of MuleSoft meetup in next year. Yeah. So welcome to 31st Surat MuleSoft Meetup, and today's topic is we will going to discuss how to write async API. Then we will also discuss about handler plugin. We will discuss about circuit breaker policy, and we will discuss about a Canary deployment policy basically. So these are the four things we will going to discuss in today's session. Okay. Next thing, like there are some like safe harbor statement. So like both speaker and the host are organizing this meetup in the individual capacity only. We are not representing any organization or any company here basically. This presentation is strictly for learning purpose, and like we cannot tell like whatever solution we are presenting here that will work for your business requirement. Like you may have to do you can use the concept, but the same solution may not work for your business basically. The presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. Then like few things generally we will upload the recording within 24 hours generally. Like we don't take 24 hour also, it will be available in 1 or 2 hours basically. Okay. So you can ask the question at any time, and even you can make use of the chat window. Okay. And like finally, we always expect a feed. Generally we don't get a good number of feedbacks. Good number in the sense like we get only few feedbacks basically, 4 or 5. So we are expecting more feedbacks from you. So so this will be help us in doing the improvements. So Nitish and myself is the organization for Surat MuleSoft Meetup. So Nitish, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Sorry, I went on mute. Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Nitish Jain, and I'm a co-leader for Surat with Jackie, and I'm all MuleSoft certified developer architect in Mule. It's 3 years for me now, and I'm working for Accenture in Bangalore. Welcome everyone.
Okay, thanks Nitish. So yeah, so the speaker for today's meetup will be myself. I have overall like 14 years of experience in APIs and integration technology. I am TOGAP certified, like I'm MuleSoft ambassador, and like also I am leading few meetup, like including Surat, Nasik, and engineering student meetup. Then I have a lot of expertise in setting up any point platform, hybrid implementation, customer hosted mule runtime, like EKS with RTF, those kind of thing, runtime fabric manager. Apart from that, like having expertise in API led connectivity and event driven architecture, and like have a lot of expertise in application integration as well. And apart from that, like also have good experience in like say defining the migration strategy from customer hosted mule runtime to cloud those kind of thing. Yeah. So the agendas for today's meetup is introduction. We are already done with introduction. Async API, error handling, handler plugin, circuit breaker policy, Canary deployment, and finally we will have a trivia quiz. Okay, so let's start with async API, or we can call this as an event driven architecture. So like last year in September, MuleSoft has released async API. Async API is basically a open source, and with async API, anypoint platform support a event driven architecture. So event driven architecture supported in the anypoint platform, right? With async API, and like you can publish async API specification to the customer, partners, and the developer. So as you are aware, we use the RAML and Open API specification for our REST APIs, right? So we write a RAML and or we write Open API specification, then we publish them to the Anypoint Exchange, and from Anypoint Exchange we generally reuse, or we can discover, or we can manage those APIs. Then also we publish those API specification or YAML specification to develop a portal. Like if anybody want to consume those API, they can simply use the developer portal, I know, and they can get, like they can understand what is the specification and what is the requirement for that particular API, and they can implement in their solution basically. So similarly, like uh, Async API is also similar to a RAML basically, but basically it is used for event-driven architecture. So whenever you want to communicate by the mean of events, basically, right? In that case, you can make use of this Async API, and even you can publish your Async API in any point exchange and later on the developer portal also. So if anybody want to understand like specification of Async API, he or she can like access the developer portal and like start like understand the specification, and they start consuming those async API into their solution. Basically they can integrate those async API with their solution, right? So as I mentioned, like it's a well documented contract on the how to interact with service. So yeah, then like we also make use of any point exchange where we can simply we can discover, we can reuse, we can manage, and we can govern events in the enterprise. Then also it is open source and the protocol agnostic. So basically you can use this async API for various protocol, like ActiveMQ is there, Apache Kafka is there, you know. Then we have a JMS, you know, like we have a AMQP protocol. So like we don't have to generally in RAML generally we define the protocol, like what protocol will be used by for this API. Generally it is HTTP or HTTPS. Here we don't have to, you know, tell the protocol. So yeah, it's a protocol agnostic basically. Okay. So Async API is supported by the following product in any point platform. So generally you can use the design center where you can go and write your Async API basically, right? And then you can also make use of any point exchange where you can publish your API for reusability and discovery purpose. And also you can make use of from any point exchange, you can expose or you can publish your API to the developer portal, right? So now developer can now design event driven APIs using Async API specification, and it's complete like even like, you know, now developer basically any developer can write, you know, async API for your event driven architecture or for your event communication. And it's a protocol agnostic, and it's a machine readable format to unlock or expose the event in the enterprise basically. So like let's see, generally here main benefits we are getting so like we will be complete once we have a lot of like async API. We have a lot of events within the organization. We like, you know, the organization is completely following event driven architecture, right? And now if I want to know like what are the events I can reuse, you know, what are the events already available, like, you know, I don't want to like create those events or those event driven architecture again, right? In that case you can make use of any point exchange, so you can go and discover whether this particular events is available in any point exchange or not. So this giving a lot of, you know, like you can enable a lot of reusability, you know, with async API basically. So in async API, we have a three layers. One is events. So this is nothing. It's a message or data to be shared with other service. So generally, you publish the event, publish or subscribe the message basically, or event basically. Channel. It's a destination of the message to be sent or received. And transport. The transport like can be, as I discussed, it can be RabbitMQ, Kafka, or any point MQ, or there can be any like any messaging queuing system. Like it can be SQS, whatever. Like, you know. So there are many, like, you know, it support all the GMS based, EMQ based transport protocol basically. Okay. So there are few benefits of async API for publishing in any point exchange. So as I mentioned, you can easily discover your events, or you can easily discover your async API basically. So you can identify like, you know, this API is already available. I don't have to recreate it. So I can simply reuse those that particular API basically, right? Explore your event driven APIs quickly and like acquire the high API with a limited support basically, right? So basically like you can manage the multiple version of the same async API. Like you can easily search, you can like easily search, and you can easily discover your API, and you can reuse basically. So these are the main benefits we are getting from the async API. So like see, async API basically it's kind of like specification for event driven architecture, and all like it's a similar to raml. So raml will be used for http based api or rest based api, whereas async api can be used for like event driven architecture basically. Okay, any question? No question, right? So we will see one example. So I will going to show you one example how to define async api. So simply you can go to a design center. So it's similar to raml, right? So you can say create new. So you can see there is something called new async API, and you can give a project name. I will say employee. I will say employee API. Okay. You can okay. So here you can see like it will publish with few information like async API, like just some metadata, title, and what is the version of your async API. Then channel. So definitely we need to define our channels basically. So the first channel I will say employee data. So this is nothing, it's a channel basically, it's a queue name or something, like it's a topic or your queue, so basically this is a channel. So then you define the operation basically, whether you want to publish or you want to subscribe. So I want to publish the message to this, so I will say publish, right? Then apart from then you define your message, how your message will look like. So it can be payload, right? Then you will say what is your type of payload. So it can be array, it can be number, it can be so in my case I will use this as an object. So then I will define all the properties basically. Let me check what's gone wrong. You should always give a space. Then you start defining your fields basically. So I will say employee id, right? And then I will say what is the type. I will say string. And also you can say like whether it's required. I will say true. Then you have a like mean length, you have a max length, you have a lot of parameters you can define for that. So I will define one field, then later I can define employee salary. Here I can say type. The type I can say number. Then I can say require. I can say true. That's fine. Then also you can say employee age. Then I can say type. I can say integer. Then you can define maximum of 100. Okay, minimum of 10, so like that. So I want maximum age allowed is 100, and like minimum age allowed is 10, like so those kind of thing. So that's a one thing, like you can publish the message. Then later I will define one more channel, like like employee result. So I need to subscribe to that employee result. Subscribe. Okay. Under subscribe you can write a message, and you can write a payload. Then you can write a type, which is of type object. Then you can write a properties. Then you can define, like again I can say employee id. I can say type. You have a IntelliSense also. Then like you can provide some kind of description also, but I just want type. And then I can say result. I will add more field like employee result. I can say type string. Then I can say employee status. Type string. Here I can say require true. So here you can see like I have channel. This channel is nothing employee data and this employee result. It can be queue topic, whatever those name. And like with to this channel, I am published to like I will publish this message particular, and like with this channel I will subscribe to that method. So it have only two operation. So one is publish and one is subscribe basically, right? So only there are two operations basically, like in like raml we have a get post put, there are many operations. But as you know, like with queue you can simply publish or subscribe the message, right? So these are only thing. Then later like you can exchange, you can publish to exchange. Okay, you have to give a version name. I will say more options you can check, I can say publish to exchange. No, Sridhar, it is just a specification, right? Here we are defining the specification. So generally, like it just like it is just kind of a skeleton. Like we are just defining a skeleton or like some kind of API specification. So Ahmed, like you don't have that capability, like where you can go and message define the JSON basically, but you can define your object structure. So like once you define the object structure, the message can be in JSON format, like it can be in XML format in that particular. Yeah, you can apply the no, you cannot apply the policy basically. Like you can use the API manager for, see, API manager cannot be used for async API basically. You cannot apply any policy vector on that. So Ahmed, like you just define the properties, like and like once you define the properties, like let message come in XML format or JSON format, it will validate all these properties available or not basically. You cannot apply any properties, like as I mentioned, like we can use only two product with async API, which is design center and any point exchange. We cannot use like API manager. Okay, so let me go to exchange. So here your let me go, where is my API? Yeah, this is my API. So here you can see, like so in publish, like you have this all this field basically, employee ID, employee salary. So basically like you can define the media type also basically, so at the top you can define the media type also. So you have to define the media type at the top basically, whether you want XML or JSON, you want XML or JSON both. So those kind of things can be defined at the top basically of your ML basically. Let me show that also. So then like you have an employee result where you can subscribe to message basically, and you can define the media type basically. Okay, so let then I can share this to a public portal. So let me do that.
Jackie, we have a question. Can we mock this async specification also?
I don't think like we cannot mock. Okay, so right now like it is not that mature where you have a mocking capability. You don't have a mocking capability and all those things right now.
Okay, and there was one more. So implementation of Async API can be done in Anypoint Studio.
See, fine, like it doesn't provide like in raml it automatically is under the code for you and all those things, right? So with async API you don't get all these things. You don't get any API kit router or async kit router basically. We don't get that. We have to implement everything manually basically. You will have a listener. Let's consider like where is my this actually. So for like for subscribing message from any queue, so you will be having listener which will read the message. So make sure like you have to implement your solution in such a way that it match with your with your async API specification. Right now, see, it is not that mature where you get auto, you can generate the code automatically, like you don't have that right now. Yeah, right now like only async API is integrated with your anypoint platform where you can define only specification, right? You can define only specification. You need to take like whatever specification you have defined, you need to take care during the implementation time. You don't have any capability where you can generate the code and everything automatically. Only two, like Gajanan, there will be two operation only, right? Generally, generally, if you talk about the events can be either publish or either it can be subscribe. So there is only two method, publish and subscribe. So like Prasan, use case is like that, like when you are working with event driven architecture, like like you have some, let's consider you have microservices, and that microservices like reading the message from queue, and then the other Microsoft services is publishing the message to other queue, right? So in like now if you want to define the specification, like if any third party want to publish the message into queue, or any developer want to consume the message into queue, right? So what you will do if you don't have this async API specification, you have to provide a documentation. You have to write a documentation and you have to provide to them, right? And then they will see the documentation, right? And like if any question, they will come back to you, like what are the message types supported, like what is the media type supported, those kind of like how to publish, how to subscribe. Once you have defined the specification, you can simply give the link to that particular developer or consumer, so you can see like the specification here, so he can easily discover like what are the events or what are the operations available, and I can make use of that. No, Prasan, there is a no proxy feature. I told you like it cannot be used with API management generally, so there is a no proxy feature basically. Okay, right? So let me I think I have shared it, right? Okay, it's done.
Yes.
I've done it. Yeah, then I can go to public portal, and you can see it has been published to your public portal basically, so generally it is mostly for like to promote the reusability, and like to you can easily discover what are the events available within your environment basically, right? So sometimes what happens if we don't have any proper mechanism where you can go and see the API specification, if you want to discover any async API, right? So like if you don't have this kind of functionality, so you may, there might be chances you may write that particular events duplicate, right? Duplicate. So in that case, this is very useful for discovering your APIs basically. No, nice. See, fine. Like, see, with async API, there is a no limitation, right? If you are using ActiveMQ or if you are using any protocol, like it depends on the protocol. If you are using any Apache Kafka, right? So if in Kafka there might be possibility if you have defined some limitation, like you can process 1,000 message in 1 second. So that limitation applied on your protocol basically. On async API there is a no limitation basically. It is just a specification. It is not giving any implementation, right? When you are doing the implementation, what kind of protocol you are using, what kind of events provider you are using, it may vary from like provider to provider. It may vary from like what kind of protocol you are using basically. Correct, fine. Yeah, so me like it is like it is mostly made for event driven architecture, mostly like it is used like to define the API like async API specification for discovery purpose and for reusability purpose. Yeah, Sandeep, you can say like you are right.
So, Jackie, quick question. Like, if we have, let's suppose we have a topic and we have a multiple subscribers. So, in the specification, we should have like only one subscriber operations, or
No,
we should have
see, it doesn't
multiple.
matter. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
consider. I will give one example to you. You
Mm-hmm.
have a REST API, right? You have a
Right,
one
right.
REST and you have a one resource. Let's consider I have an
Mm-hmm.
invoice resource. We, within that invoice resource, I have a get method. So it means like if
Mm-hmm.
I have a 10 consumer, I have to define 10 get method. No, right? I will have only one get
All right.
method. Correct. In same
Okay.
way,
Yep.
so if you have a channel, under that channel you have defined a subscribe method, right? So like in subscribe, like there can be like, see, I will tell you, if you have a topic, that message can have a multiple subscriber, right? If you have a queue, in case of queue, what will happen if there are three subscriber, but the message will only deliver to one subscriber? This is the property of queues itself. You might be aware, right? So queue is
Right.
one to one, whereas
Mm-hmm.
like topic is many to many, right? Or one to many. It can be one message can be sent to many. So it's same way, like if let's consider I have a queue, right? And I have defined one channel. Under that channel I have a one publish method. that like if somebody want to like use that publish method, so and like any number of publisher can publish the message, right? So you don't have a
Hmm.
restriction on that. It's similar to REST API. Your REST API can be consumed by multiple people, right? You don't create, if you have a 10 consumer, you don't create 10 get method, right? You will have a one get method only, correct?
Right, right, right. I thought because the RAML is moreover we can consume and build the APIs, but it's a seems like this particular async APIs is just a documentation that we do for TDD instead of we create a document or we
Yeah,
just
it's a
create a
well document
specification. Yeah,
contract
yeah, yeah.
basically, you are right.
Right.
And apart from that, like if you like, it will definitely it will be mature, slowly. Like it is just
Hmm.
initially they have integrated async API. Like later we can see more feature where people are asking for mocking capability. Like there might be
Right.
possibility we may have able to generate async API routers also, right, going forward.
Yep.
But now we have we can write just specification, and we can publish those specifications to any point exchange. So anybody
Yep.
can like go to any point exchange, and they can search for like whether this kind of event is available, or I need to write it again basically, right? So in that
Yep.
case, it will promote the reusability, and it make the discovery simpler for you basically.
Perfect, perfect. I thought it's just for a specification because that's why I'm just worried. Like, do we need to put like multiple operations for that or not? So it's
Correct.
fine. It's fine, Jackie. Thank you for your
Yeah,
explanation. Yeah.
see, somebody asked me the queue name. This employee data, employee result. This is the channel. Okay, this is the queue or topic name. We never mention like whether it's a queue or topic. It You need to take care in your implementation whether it's a topic or queue, right? Here we are just saying channel. The channel can be queue or topic basically. Okay. No, Rajiv, you cannot directly specify API or queue. You cannot. You can specify only channel basically. But you can, in your description, you can definitely put, you have a tag called description. In description, you can tell like this is the queue basically, or this is the topic. You can put that in the description. Okay. So let me go with next demo. So we have done with async API demonstration. First, I will go with a circuit breaker before I move to other. So like I will ask question: how many people knows about the circuit breaker basically? Circuit breaker pattern, where we use the circuit breaker pattern. Anybody? Till that, I will open my Postman. So can anybody explain me like circuit breaker pattern? So I will ask simple question: how many states available in circuit breaker pattern? So we have some kind of states, right?
Yeah, Jackie, there are three states. This is Gazanan. So
Yeah,
basically, one we have for close, one we have open, and one is half open, right? So close is basically uh, the main normal state where we'll receive the message and try to process it normally. And
correct,
for open, when we like, there are some configurations we have put on our, if we are using our anypoint MQ or anypoint MQ, and there is a default MuleSoft provided circuit breaker, right? So there
correct.
is a frequency sorry, what we say is the threshold we have to
Threshold,
put. Yes, the threshold we have to put. If the threshold reach, the circuit breaker will open, and it will not process any record for the next the time limit or the trip time that we have put, right?
correct. Yeah, correct.
And we have to define the error handling or the error type as well. Okay, so we can define multiple error type, like the connectivity or the custom error, whatever you want, the threshold, right? So you can define that error. If these error matches with that error that you define, then it will start open. And once the threshold or the trip time will lapse, it will again put into the half state, and it will check whether now the connectivity is established or not. If the connectivity is established, it will make to close. Otherwise, it will make to
Correct.
decide whether it's need to open or close, right?
Yeah, I think you have explained very well. I don't need to explain it again.
All right.
Thanks, Gajan. You actually. So basically, like I know a lot of people know this about MuleSoft Catalyst, right? So we have a something like a MuleSoft Catalyst where you can find a lot of resources. So we have one policy there. So that is the circuit breaker policy Mule for. So which you can apply on your any REST APIs basically. Okay. So yeah, you can download this policy and let me go to this policy first. And like just it's a simple step. Like you have to clone this repo on your local, and then you just have to go to pom.xml and you have to just change the organization id, and you just use the mv and deploy command, and it will deploy your this policy into your anypoint platform, and then you can see in your api manager policies. Okay, I will explain, like just give a high level idea. So basically, like this is the custom policy that implement the lightweight circuit breaker pattern for Mule 4 basically. So like as Gajanan mentioned, like there are three states. So open, half open, and completely closed. So basically, open means like what will happen. So whenever the circuit is open, it will whenever the request come, it doesn't matter like the backend service is running or not running, it doesn't matter. It will give the that it will never hit the backend service. Like the response will go, return back from the circuit itself saying that the backend service is not working basically. I will tell you, like I will explain with example. When it is half open, so it means like whenever the like time threshold time is over, it will try to check whether service is up or down. If service is up, like if service is giving the successful response, in this case it will again close the uh, circuit breaker basically, it will close it, right? In case if service during the half open, if the service is giving like unsuccessful response, it will again open the circuit breaker. I will explain with the diagram basically. So this is the diagram. So we have we have a three state: a close, half open, and the open. So let's consider i I got the request, and I got the request and I sent that request to the backend. I got a successful response. In that case, your circuit breaker is still closed. Okay. Now I have defined some kind of threshold. If my five requests got failed continuously, right? In that case, I have to open the circuit breaker. Okay, so I've defined that threshold. So now I send the first request, it got filled. I send the second request, it got filled. I send the third request, it got filled. It will go to backend system. Okay, now I got a fourth request, it will go to backend, it got filled. I got a fifth request, it will go to backend and it got filled. Now what will happen? My threshold is 5. So my threshold is 5, it means my circuit breaker will open. Now 6 requests will come. So requests will come to circuit breaker. It will not go and hit the backend server. Okay, it will reject from there itself. So it's saying like the backend service is not working, like whatever 503 or whatever service unavailable. So again, we define some kind of time limit basically, like so like you can give unsuccessful response for 2 or 3 minutes or 60 seconds. We define that time limit. So till 60 seconds, it will reject all the requests. Once 60 seconds is over, then it circuit will half open basically. Okay, the circuit will half open, so it will again and go again hit the backend service. If backend service give the error, it will again open the circuit breaker, and your again threshold time will become 60 seconds basically. And if in case if we got a successful response, it will close the circuit breaker, and like now it will close the circuit breaker and it will give the successful response back to the service. And now whenever the request will come, it will come to circuit breaker, and the circuit breaker will send the request to backend, and yeah. So that is how a circuit breaker policy works. So can anybody tell me what is the advantage of doing this?
Yeah, Jackie Gazanand again. So the advantage is, let's suppose we are connecting with the database, right? And sometimes like database goes down. So instead of like suppose we are picking the message from the queue, right? If the system is down, so circuit breaker, what it will do for us, right? It will not create a multiple errors for us. It will keep it will check the system whether it's live or not. As and when it will live, it will process the data. So by doing that, you will 100% deliver your data, and you will not you will not lose your data. And also you there is no need to stop and start your
Yeah,
application, automatically it will take
you
care.
You are right, but there are few other advantages. Sridhar, you also mentioned correctly. So I feel one of the most important advantage, like we will not go and hit the backend again and again if we are,
Correct.
if let consider like again and again, and like we are saving the backend resources basically, right? So like we are not making the backend like busy basically. So if somebody is working on the backend like to fixing that issue, so he will not face any issue. Like he can simply like perform the fix and make sure the service is up and running. So that is the one of advantage. And you mentioned whatever, Gajanan, that is correct basically, yeah. So yeah, you are right. No wastage, yeah, right, Praveen. No wastage of like resources, and so client will get a quicker response, like because circuit breaker will not go and hit the backend service, so it will respond from there itself. Like like the service is not up and running, whatever response it will send it back. Okay, so let me show you the first thing what you have to do. I will not going to install it again, but I will show the steps. Okay, so the first thing, you can copy this code, you can copy it from here, and just like I will say new folder, circuit breaker. It's a simple step like how you deploy the policy basically. And I can simply say cmd, and I can say like git clone minus b develop this. I'm just let me check. Okay, let me do git clone only, I think.
Jackie, one more advantage I want to mention.
Yeah, tell me.
So, if the system sees the circuit is open, in that
Hmm.
case, the fallback mechanism can, be in action. Like, if you have a fallback URL, so that advantage you have, that, you can
Correct.
close the URL,
Yeah.
instead
So
of
we can
trying,
implement like
again and again.
we can implement those kind of thing. Actually, you are right. Like so we can make it of fallback also. You are correct. So like in MuleSoft, we have something called first successful, right? There's
Yeah.
a first successful router. Yeah. So basically, what you have to do. So like once you download the code, you have to just change this group ID basically. Okay, so you have to just change this group id. This group id must be your anypoint platform organization. This group id is nothing, it's an organization id, it's an organization token basically, right? And later, like, you have to ensure that like you have entry on settings.xml with this particular id, like exchange server basically. Okay, settings dot with your with your anypoint platform username and the password, that's it. And you simply use the mvn deploy command. Once you done that, so it's a very simple steps. So you can go to anypoint exchange. Basically, I'm in anypoint exchange only. Here you can see a circuit breaker mule 4. Okay, so now I have one simple API. Let me explain it. So I have one simple API. Okay, so I have this circuit breaker API. I think it's already there. So in this case, what happen? If I put name equals to Jit, so it means it's a error. If I put anything else from Jit, so it's not a error basically. Okay, so let me put. Okay, so let me put one. This will give a successful response. Okay, then now I have to show you a circuit breaker policy first. So I will go to API manager. So I have already peer my runtime manager API with the API manager API using API auto discovery. So that's fine. So this is my API. Okay, here you can see a policy. So you can edit this. Okay, so let me open the presentation also. So there are few parameters. So you can define a failure threshold, a maximum number of errors allowed before tripping the circuit. So that error should be continuous. So let's consider I have set up the threshold of 5. Okay, I got 3 failure, and if fourth is success, so it will again reset that failure threshold counter basically to 0. So then you can also say retry period, and so like you can also mention what are the http codes, like on what kind of http code you have to throw the error, and like whether you want to use the like override the object store setting, or whether you want to keep a default one. And like also you can define the exception array. So exception array, like what kind of array for which you have to use the circuit breaker pattern basically, or circuit breaker error. Let me show with this diagram. So here first I'm giving a failure threshold, so I will say 5. So once, like if I have a continuous 5 failure, it will open the circuit. So retry period, so like what I'm saying, like you just go and check the service after 30 seconds basically, so like whether it's up and down, like whether after 30 seconds if I'm getting successful response, your circuit breaker will close basically, right? Whenever it will retry, during that time the circuit is a half open basically. Okay, so and what are the exceptions areas allowed? So you can have any, or like you can have a something called, this http unauthorized, those kind of error. And what kind of error code you want. So I'm just considering 500 for now basically. If you want to override object store setting, I will not override. So if you see in code, we have some like object store settings, like so here like default value for TTL is 1 hour basically, those kind of thing. And if you want to change like 2 hour or 3 hour, you can do it from here, but I will keep everything optional, and like I will not check anything. So this is simple basically, right? So these are the simple settings, and you can put multiple code using comma separated, or multiple exception type using comma separated. Okay, I will not do any changes, I will just cancel it. So let me start. So I will use Jit. So 1. So you are using error count is 1. I will say 2, 3, 4, 5. Here you get the circuit is still open now, and the new request will, now I will send a successful response, like name equals to 1. It will not accept that also, because the request will never go and hit the backend server now, and it will be rejected from policy itself, like so now I have to wait for 30 seconds. Okay.
Hey, Jitendra, this is Sridhar. A quick question in this
Yeah.
time. So I understood how the circuit breaker works, but just I'm trying to connect. How did when you got this custom policy from the Catalyst?
Mhm.
How you downloaded it into your local, but how did you attach it to the? How did you attach it to the API? Is it?
It ought, see, once you put mvn deploy, it will automatically come to your, I will explain, let me complete this demo, I will tell you. Okay.
Oh, okay, I think I understood. It will automatically come to the platform, and you can add it to the policies.
Yeah, I will tell you, and we need to do few settings, I will tell you. Okay.
Sure.
So yeah, so this is circuit. Let me put again request. So now name is not allowed. Okay, so what is happening here, again I put the, after 30 second I put the invalid code. Now circuit is half open. Now again it got full open, you will see this, with this error it will again half open, and now it's full open. The circuit is still open, not propagating any error. Even I send a successful response, it will not give a response. Now again I have to wait a 30 seconds. I think it's maybe over. Yeah, we got a successful response. If I put invalid again, so it will give the error. Now again I will put a successful response. Now let's put Jit. So you can see error count 1. Now if I put second, it will say error count 2. Now let me do 1 again. Now I will put again. Now error count should be reset. Now error count become 1 basically, right? So that is how you can make use of this circuit breaker policy. Now I will come to Sridhar question. So Sridhar, what happens, like first, as I mentioned, you have to do some settings in pom.xml and settings.xml. In pom.xml, you have to ensure that you put the group ID as your or anypoint platform organization ID, and also like you have to put the username and password in settings.xml of your anypoint platform basically, right? Once you have done this, you will use the command mvn deploy basically. Once you do the mvn deploy, you will automatically see the policy in anypoint exchange, and whenever you want to apply to any api, you will definitely find that policy in api manager also. You don't have to do like you, whatever settings you have to do, you have to do in pom.xml and settings.xml. You don't have to do any single setting on any point platform. Yeah, you just have to configure the policy when you want to apply to any api basically. So
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Ahmed, like this is all by default basically. Okay, so like if you if you can, you have a complete access to the code basically. Okay, you can download the code, you can change according to you. Let me open the code, I will show you. Let me show that code. Source main mule. So this is my template, this is my code basically. Okay, in this code you can see like all the response and everything is generated basically. Okay, so if you see like failure threshold, retry period, state, timestamp, error count, here it is maintaining the error count because it is, you can see like it is making use of object store and it is maintaining all your count in object store, right? And it is also resetting your object store, like so from object store it is reading all these values and everything basically. You can see that object store, key cb store, you can read this code and even you can want to change, you can change it according to you basically. And also it have one YAML file, so where we define the structure, like how should your policy look like on the UI basically. So here you can define that, so settings.xml is available in your m2 folder, Nitish mentioned, right? And you cannot, like in case like I will tell you, like somebody should ask me one question like I don't want the error response in this particular format, I want in some separate format. No problem, like you can go to this template file and you can change according to your requirement basically. You can do it like, so you can change it somewhere here basically.
So
Okay,
Jackie, seems like you are creating a custom policy for circuit breaker,
yeah,
right?
it's already available, and like it's
Hmm.
already available in MuleSoft Catalyst, and you can definitely change according
Hmm.
to your requirement basically. It's a basic
Okay.
policy, and that can be changed according to your
Hmm.
requirement.
All right.
Okay, so this is all about a circuit breaker pattern. So it's a very useful pattern basically, so how many people uh, heard about a Canary deployment?
So Jackie, having little bit idea about the high level stuff, like let's suppose you have deployed an API, and in future you want to just add a new feature in that API, and you have to test it, right? And in the beginning, all the traffic, 100% traffic will be on the version v1, and now you have little bit do some sort of additional stuff in your apis, add new features in that, and you want to test it, right? So what you will do is you just uh, categorize, or you can say traffic to the V2 version. If it is already successful, then you might increase to 50%, and then you probably see if everything goes okay. You
Yeah,
will move all 100% traffic to the V2 and then remove V1.
yeah,
So that's how you are. Mhm.
correct, correct, you are right. So you are absolutely right. So like you might be heard about, like in AWS we have something called route 53. Within route 53 we have something called weighted routing policy, right? You might be heard about
Yep.
those things. So in that,
Yep.
what happens generally, like let's consider I have one scenario, like what is the best, like during the deployment, like if like your 100% customer get impacted or 20% customer get impacted, like if your deployment fails, right? If your like new version of deployment fail, like what will be good, if your all customer get impacted or just few customer get impacted, what will be the better option?
The only the few, right?
Right.
Why we have
So
to
that
impact?
is
Yeah.
all about the Canary deployment. Let's consider I
Yes.
have an API version 1. Okay. And I have done some major changes to that API. And I'm deploying the version 2. I have done some testing and everything is fine. But still on production, we know like we do some mistakes, right? While deploying, and like in on the production, the API doesn't behave like as per our expectation. Sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes it happen many time also, right? It doesn't like, like, so in that case what we can do, we can make use of Canary deployment, where first we can do like, the 90% route or 90% traffic can be route to older version of API, and 10% of traffic can be route to the new version of API, right? Then later, like if you feel like comfortable, like yeah, the new version is also doing good, make this as a 30% and make the older one version as a 70%, and slowly just increase the like weightage of your new version of API and decrease the weightage of your older version of API, right? And once it becomes zero, make like then remove that version 1 API basically, or like no traffic should go to version 1 if you feel completely comfortable basically, right? So that is what known as a canary deployment. Like in services world, we heard lot of time this word basically, canary deployment. Okay, so let me open that. Where is my presentation? So this is also a custom policy basically, like you need to perform the similar steps for deploying this policy or publishing this policy to endpoint exchange and API manager. You have to go to pom.xml, you have to just update your organization ID and add the proper username and the password into your settings.xml. Okay, so basically it's a custom policy. Perform the canary release, intercepting the incoming call and deciding which implementation URL to route the call, and applying this policy to your API proxy you would to be basically. Okay, so like they have recently introduced like also you can get the metrics and all those things. So I will tell you like there is some bug right now with that policy. There is some bug, right? So metrics is not working. So right, with this policy you can see that circuit breaker policy. So I feel like there's some problem. Like recently they have introduced something called metrics, so there is some issue with that. So I have done some few code changes, and I will definitely like also inform this person to like there are some bugs you need to fix it. So this is a very very good policy, like when you are doing the migration or so sometimes like you are doing the migration, you have to ensure that traffic goes to the new version of API and like to the older version of API also. In this case, the canary deployment policy is very useful basically. Okay, so let me go to next slide. So what happened, like my request will come to API proxy. On API proxy, I will apply this canary deployment policy, and like depending on the weightage, it will route the it will route the traffic to version 1 or version 2 API basically. Let me show this example to you. Okay, so let me go back to, let me first show I have like two API in my API manager. Generally this requirement comes many time, like during the migration you will see like customer asks during the migration, I want to route the traffic to both the version of API basically for initial days, right? In that case this policy is very useful. So I have a two application, a canary f1 and canary f2. So let me copy this URL. I will simply say http slash API slash v1 slash canary. I will send the request. I get a response from version 1. I will send the response to this. I what happened? Yeah, it's a v2. No problem. So I got the response from version 2. So these are the two different applications. You can keep both application, both API in the same version also. So no issue on that. Then I've created a small proxy. So similar setup like this, version 1 and version 2 API. So this is my original version 1 and version 2 is a canary one. And I created one API proxy. So I've created the API proxy, and on API proxy, I have an implementation URI of a version 1 basically, but this is not going like it just for like even you don't give doesn't matter. And I have applied a policies here. So I applied a canary policy. So you can open edit this. And here I'm giving the host name. So like host name. So basically this is my host name. I'm providing the host name. Then I'm providing the protocol. This is 80. Then I'm providing the resource path. You have to provide a complete resource path here. You will ask me question like if there's a multiple resource, what needs to be done. I will come on that. So I'm giving a 50% weightage to hit, and like let me give 80% weightage to this and 20% weightage to this basically. Okay, so here I'm defining the original like this is my original API with like version 1 and where the weightage is 80, and this is my canary app 2 where I am just this is my canary host basically and canary port, and this is my canary URL basically, right? You can ignore this for now because this there is some problem with these options. You can override the object store setting if you want to get the, if you want like how many requests is coming on which API, you can enable this option. You get some kind of matrix. There is a URL called slash matrix, but right now this is not working. Like I have checked that. Okay, so this you can just, these are the options is enough. Let me apply this. Let me go to my proxy app. Let me check the logs. It got applied now only. Let me check. So let's wait for a few seconds. It take at least 40-45 seconds to get reflect. So here now I will use the proxy URL instead of like using direct Canary URL. I think policy, I think this is only applied like, I think like that. Yeah, it's applied now. Let me send the request. Let's see. I'm sending first request. I don't know what happened. Canary proxy app get. Let me check the URL because I'm not getting any error here.
Jackie Pavan says it should be 80-20 as you said, but I guess it's 80-50. So maybe,
No, not that a issue. It should be
yeah,
within the 100%, right?
okay.
I'm just checking. I don't know. It was working fine. Let me check the policy. No, it's 80-80. I mentioned set. It should be 80-20. That is what you are saying, right? Thanks. I have, let me check. Something has changed again, right? No, its port is 80 only.
Yeah,
I'm doing some mistake. I got it. This is port is 80. Let me do something is going wrong basically. It should be 20 here, right? So port 80. This is weight. Yeah, here weight is 80, right?
yeah,
Yeah. It's a number confusion.
correct.
Let's wait again for application to deploy. It should be 100% basically, right? Otherwise it will fail.
Make it
Yeah, see,
70-30.
yeah. Again, I have done mistake.
No, no, no. This time it's okay, but just to be on safer side, make it 70-30.
Now let it keep as it is. Again, it will take some time for deployment, no?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead with this.
I think it's applied. I think. Let me send the request. No, not this one. Sorry, this one. Why again?
It's some
Policy is
server
not.
error.
I think policy is not applied yet. Yeah, I got a response from version one. Let me send the second. Still version one. I think till 8 I will get till version 1. This is fifth request. 6, 7. See, we got ninth request, 10th request, version 2, again version. It should be version 1. You can see that, like, so some of the traffic is routed to, like version 1. The like 80% of traffic is routed to version 1. Now, somebody asked me question, if there are multiple resources, then what we have to do, right? You get version 2. You can see that, right? So that is working fine. I will tell you. So basically in that case you will make use of this. So generally you have to give a full resource path, so no other option right now. you can definitely download the code and you can change according to your requirement. But right now this support, so what you can do, you can apply at a resource level. I can say get, right? Then like you can say something called get, and you can say something like no, like you can say something like star dot star, or you can say canary. So whatever like url ending with canary, so it will like come to this particular policy. Let's consider I have a new url where we have something called users here, right? You can apply the second policy, you apply that policy at a resource level. You can define this particular expression on second policy, do the same configuration, right? And just this path will change, like so this path will change. And like if you have a 3 4, you apply 3 4 policies like that, so right now like it require full path basically. That's a problem. But if you have multiple resource, you have to apply the multiple policy, and you have to make sure you enable this particular option instead of applying to the all method. So generally like in real case, like you will change one or two endpoints, you will not going to change all the endpoints, right? In real case, like yeah, there might be possibility during migration you may have a 7 8 points, then in that case you have to define the policy for all. And like you have to define policy, and you have to apply that policy at a resource level instead of applying to all the resources. Yeah, yeah. Now what is the question? So weight, nothing like weight signifies like how many, like let consider if I mention like 100 to, like it should be total of 100%, 100 first, the total should be 100. So basically like if I divide original 80 and like canary 20, so out of 10, 8 requests will go to original and 2 requests will go to the canary. If I deploy say 70 30, so 70 requests will go to the version 1, 30 requests will go to version 2. Then slowly I can like decrease the weight on the version 1 and increase the weight on the version 2. The total sum should be 100.
Jackie, quick question for circuit breaker. Can we apply this for we can't apply for non-mule application, right?
You can do that.
Even
You can do that.
uh-huh.
You can create a
Even
proxy. You can create a proxy application on the top of your non-MuleSoft application, and then you can apply it.
so how we can define the errors types then?
You can define error codes. Don't define types. Then you can only define the error codes.
Perfect. All right. Then our life will be easy then. I
Yeah,
thought like in the non-mule applications we don't have the error types and all, right? So yeah,
yeah.
there is some sort of that
We have error codes also, right? It
mhm,
it
right.
it can it can like open or close the circuit breaker on the type of errors basically.
Correct, correct. Thanks, Jackie. Yep.
No, 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 I don't think limit. Yeah, see, circuit breaker can apply for like not two application. I will not say for two resources basically, for two version of resources. Okay, so it doesn't matter that that both resources can be in the same application with version 1 with version 2, right? So like within same application you may have to route the traffic 80% traffic to version 1 and 20% traffic to version 2, right? So that you can also define. So, yeah, but you can maximum define one original and other is the canary. Yeah, generally what happens, like I will tell you, like generally like first it will route like out of 10, 8 requests to version 1, and finally 2 requests to the version 2. So it happens in sequentially, like it doesn't do the randomly.
Jackie, the question from Rakshak could be like, can we have more than two versions?
More than two versions, no, it will not support, right? You can route between two. See, you can create a new policy, and on in that you can definitely like you can add more options basically, right? You have a code right now, it will just support two versions basically, but you can definitely do that. So and like this weightage calculated in data wave transformation, if you see the code, and depending on that you can also calculate the weightage basically, so you can definitely do, anything is possible, right? In that case you just have to like change this policy basically to support the multiple version. I will tell you where is the code. Yeah, this is the function which is doing the calculation basically. You can see this function, and this is like this is the function which calculating the weightage basically, and it is making use of object store to to store how many requests has been sent to version 1 and how many version 2. So those kind of things you can check this code basically. It's a simple code, not, yeah, it looks complicated but it's not that complicated. Most of the code where you are just setting the variable, only the complex part is this. Okay, here it is doing some kind of calculation, so you can definitely add the third route, but you
Okay, this is, yeah.
yeah, Sridhar.
Sorry. Go ahead, Jackie.
No, I'm done.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So I so basically the Canary is like a weighted routing policy, 80/20 policy, right? And to make sure that you when you release a very reliable API to the users, it doesn't
Correct,
fail, right? And
correct,
slowly, when the 20% also is getting successful, you'll increase the percentage and kind of probably make it 100 one day, right? That
correct.
way. Now,
And later,
now
later, if you have 100, you remove the policy, right? You don't have to
exactly.
create 100. Correct.
Exactly. We remove the policy and make the backend URL of the proxy to the second one, V2, right?
Yeah. So I'll
Now,
tell you, if you see on MuleSoft blogs, right, there is one of the customer who have used this policy very effectively. Like they have done complete migration from Mule 3 to Mule 4, and they make use of this Canary policy basically.
right. Now, a question is slightly that would touch another topic, but rather, I mean, instead of this way, why can't we have a policy which will, like a failure routing policy, right? Keep hitting V2, and only if it fails, hit the V1, something like that.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Right now, like this kind of policy is not available. We have to write it customly, right? Customize. We have to write the custom policy.
Correct.
It is kind of load balancing. Generally, like it is kind of, you can make use of circuit. You can enhance the circuit breaker policy basically, like as Raji mentioned initially, right? So like one of the URL is continuously, like one of the URL is failing, let's consider I deploy my V2 application and it is failing for 5 or 6 times, right? So circuit will open. During circuit opens, you can have a, you can route the traffic to fallback URL basically. So you can define in your circuit breaker policy itself this kind of logic.
I see. Okay. So in the circuit breaker, I probably missed that point. How can I define the callback URL? Is there a property or something, or
You can see
in the error handling?
simple.
Uh-huh.
When in circuit breaker we have a code, what we code when the circuit breaker opens, right? It send the response back, what's the response it will send, like this is my threshold count and your request has, the circuit is open, so it cannot process the request, right? Instead of that, what you can do, when your circuit is open, you can use the HTTP requester there, and you can transfer your request to the other fallback URL basically. That can be done, right, Sridhar?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so next, a simple topic. There's a one more topic. So yeah, so basically we have something called event error handler basically. So generally what we do, let me explain the scenario. Mule process error, and generally we define a lot of errors like this kind of blocks: on error propagate, HTTP not found, on error, whenever we define different kind of uh, different type of blocks depending on different type of error types, right? We keep on defining this, right? So we have something called available in catalyst. Let me go back there. So that is known as error handle plugin basically. So in that case, you just have, you don't have to define many on error propagate, you define just single on error propagate, and this is the list of all the error codes. Okay, and you just simply add what error description you need to provide to end user here basically. It's very simple, right? Instead of defining so many block, you don't have to do that. You simply use this process error component, and you can define this kind of errors basically here. As simple as that, right? Let me show the first thing what you have to do again. It's the same process. The first thing, it is bit different, first thing, like you need to publish this into your anypoint exchange. So if you see, go to anypoint exchange. So how you will going to publish to anypoint exchange? The first step, go and change your organization ID, and just update your settings.xml with the proper anypoint platform username and the password. Then you will see this kind of error handler plugin basically. Okay, so this is the plugin, and if you click here, it will give a dependency snippets. So you can copy this dependency snippets, and you can go to pom.xml. You can keep it. You can just add this to the pom.xml basically. As simple as that, like it's simple. Like you just have to add to your pom.xml. What you have to do, clone the code from your GitHub. Okay, after cloning the code, you have to change the group id. Your group id is nothing, it's an organization id. Then like you have to properly update your settings.xml depending on the id defining in your pom.xml. So against that id, you define your username and the password in the settings.xml. Right, third step, you just have to do the ambient deploy basically. So sometime you will experience like while deploying to any point exchange, like any like circuit breaker policy or canary deployment or process error, like you can experience 401. So you have to ensure that like whatever server id you are defining in settings.xml, that is matching with the id a repository id in your pom.xml. Just keep this in mind, like so let me show that. So I have simple application, right? In global configuration, I will just put this global handler. So I'm putting this one, like this global handler. So let me save the application, let me run it.
Okay, where did you define whether to use the error handler or error handler plugin?
Yeah, it's simple, like so I have created two file, first thing. So one with this process error, one with this global handler. So like I have something called a configuration, right? So we have some component called configuration here. Okay, so this component, in this component I can say which error handler you want basically, and this is nothing, this is a global error handler basically. Okay,
Yep.
so here I've defined it, like so global error handler. So this is my like here in on http request, if you see I put some invalid like let me put some invalid, this is the valid. So I will put local host some invalid url which will give me a connectivity error. I can use this as a get. Let me save it again. Yeah, this is the check. Yeah, it's deployed. Let me send the request. So I got this error description. So generally, like you have to ensure few more things, like if you see in global error handler. So here what I have done, if you see the transform message, so I have defined this error description, and also I have defined one variable http status code with 404, but I got 500, right? So 500 might be from this or this block, like so I think from this block. So it's a connectivity error, right? So if you see here, and if you see transform message, under transform message I have this payload, and also I have a http status variable which is 500. Also you have to ensure that you know what you have to ensure, like you have to go to
Response.
responses,
Yeah.
and you have to define the error response, like what is your variable vars.http status, and just body equals to payload. So whatever body written from global error handler, that is the payload, and what is the variable status, that is the http status. Okay, so you can define this. So I think it's a http status code. Let me change this. So that's why I'm getting, it will come 500 only, so no issue on that. You can check console. You can send the request, it will be 500 only because it's a connection error. Yeah, now what I have to do, instead of that I will explain this global handler. So like once you like add the dependency in your pom.xml, you will see this error handler plugin with a process error method basically. Okay, so just keep in mind, so you have to just drag and drop, and you can go to process error. So here this is all default value, you just ignore it. Here you API version, you can give the API name and the API version. So I have defined it this property in the properties file. Simple, like this is also default thing. So then apart from that, the main thing is this common errors. So I will keep everything default for now. If you, in case if you want to change it, you can definitely change this description basically. Okay, you can definitely change this. Let you just have to do this much, like you don't have to do many settings and many things here. Just I will go to, I will just change the configuration. I'll put this error handler. Okay, also one more thing we have to do, like forget, where is this? Yeah, here I'm setting one variable called http status. I will say code because I put vars.http status code there. So I'm reading this http status code basically. So process error, like process error generate http status code. I'm reading from like payload.error details.code 0. So simple, like if you don't know what is coming, so simply like you can, from where you have to read it, so you can simply say logger and you can say payload. Just save it. Let me clear the screen. I think configuration doesn't change. What changed? Yeah, we got a proper response. So we, like I mentioned, like if you want to read the payload, so I'm reading from 503. Like if you see here, where is my code? So if you see it here, I'm reading this payload.error details dot code. So code is in the array, so I put 0 there. So it give complete error details and all those things. Now you may have a question like, if I want to customize the error, how can I do that, right? So you have something called custom errors. So you can make use of this custom error tab, like so if you want, let me show that. I will give an example. Not circuit breaker, process error. So how can you define, like so I want to check whether this is the custom error. It's in target or source, maybe source, not this. Yeah, so that is how you can define the custom error. You can just simply copy this and you can paste it here basically. Just let me open this. So you can paste it. So depending on the error, like if it's validation, invalid, boolean. So for that, if I want to define for http connectivity, right, you can simply put the comma. You can define for http connectivity and you can just put, and whatever parameters you need to put, you can put it here basically. So for http connectivity. So in that other thing, like you have to ensure that if you want to use the custom error, so there's a one parameter you need to make it false. So let me check where is that parameter. Yeah, it's there. So you can make this parameter as a false, so it will pick the custom error basically. Okay, if it is true, then it will take the default error. In case if you make it false, so whatever custom error you are defining, so whenever you download your like this error handler, you get some samples here how you can define your custom errors basically. So this is on the basis of your error code basically. Error type, I think it's error type. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so there are many other things, so you can look into catalyst. So right now, like we have this much time, it's already got extended. So we have a lot of things, like we have a lot of connectors, like in this particular thing basically. So we have a lot of, you can see that we have a templates also. So we have a HashiCorp connector also. HashiCorp, we have some Salesforce bulk upsert examples. There are a lot of things available in this particular. We have a connector, Kamunda. So Kamunda is nothing, it's a BPM tool. So we have a something connector for Kamundas also. Like we have a connector, something for CQRS pattern, compress, decompress example. So there are a lot of things available. Mule, Kafka integration, so you can make it like, so I just pick few of the few of the policies and the few of the things from this catalyst. Later on session, if I find some interesting, I will definitely keep the session on that. Yeah, any question? So if then it will throw the empty result, Santosh, like it will just give an empty result back basically. Aman, like there is some problem with Mule 4.4. So the question, like it has been already raised, like so like there are something has been changed in XML SDK, right? So it is creating some issues, like so that we have already raised, like so like they are working on that to make it compatible basically. So yeah, so they are working on it to make it compatible. So they are doing some changes. So it will be done soon basically. Okay, so thanks guys. I will give like I will ask Nitish Jain to take the control from here.
Thanks, Jackie. It was an amazing session, and yeah, today I guess we all learned new things. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, quiz time.
yes, you can start.
Sure.
So guys, few things before we start with quiz. So guys, if anybody won the voucher in last 1 month, so I will just like I will ask them, give a chance to other also, so they can also win the vouchers. Okay, so like if anybody is like less than 6 months or 1 year experience, so don't apply for MCI or MCPA certification, like I like so I think there might be chances it may get rejected also. So please make sure, like if you have some experience like at least 6 months or 1 year of, or maybe more than that, then in that case you can go with MCI or MCPA training. Otherwise you can like apply for any other trainings basically, like yeah. So just I will not tell like if you have won the voucher in last 1 month you don't participate. I will never say that, but I am just requesting you. You can ask other, like you can give a chance to other to win a voucher basically. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie. So, we'll be having quiz on Kahoot. So we require two screens to play the quiz. On one screen, you'll be having the question along with four options, and time limit will be 10 seconds. And from the second screen, you need to choose the color of the options you want to answer. So this is not a game pin. Sharing it. So now they have added a new feature. You can scan the QR code and game will be on your phone.
So Nitish, I think you are paid extra. They are giving the music also.
Yes, yes. Yes, Jackie, we got premium for our group,
Good, good,
meetup group. guess people were around 75. Come on, guys, make it soon. I'll suggest to go with phone for second screen, so it will be feasible or easier to every like to all.
I think this session has been postponed like for 3 or 4 times,
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry for that, due to some like logistic issue, so this session has been postponed 2 3 times.
And Jackie, fun fact that all the 3 times I joined and saw the notification, it's what got postponed.
But thanks like for your patient, Gajan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Eagerly waiting for this particular meetup.
Yeah, so I hope you got some information from this meetup, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Jackie, it is always worth waiting for your session.
Thanks, Sridhar. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, can we lock? Okay, I'll just wait till 11:30, then I lock.
Eh, Jackie, a quick question. I was just browsing the Catalyst URL, and I see some of the plugins or the examples empty. When I just click them, they're empty. For example, OData is empty. So why do they publish if it is empty?
Let me check.
OData, for example, if you can search with OData, it is empty.
OData template.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they may have removed it. Maybe somebody tried to put that, but they haven't published anything. Like somebody
Right.
has created the repository, but they haven't published anything.
Right,
But
right.
it is not case with most of the thing, but maybe one or two,
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So I'm locking the game. No one else will be
Guys,
able to join.
like anybody want to on the camera, they can do that. So
Yeah, starting the game. All the best, guys. Great. So let's see the podium. We have Nitin, Akshay, and Bhaskar. Cool. Second question. Okay. So Akshay, Akash, and Sai. Great. So I can say everyone was attentive. Okay. Arun, Akash, and Shankar. Second last question. Suraj, Arun, and Shankar. So 7 players are on fire. Last question. Great. Okay, so let's see how the podium looks. Super. Congratulations, winners. And runners up as well, Zenu and Sridhar. So Ahmad, Shankar, and Suraj. Congratulations.
I took the picture. So you can remove it. Like
Okay, thank you, Jackie. I'll be stop sharing.
I will stop recording.
Sure.